Welcome in, everyone. I realise that there's probably not going to be a lot of people in here today, as it appears there's another live stream going. Thanks for letting us know. I will be doing another live stream after this one. So after this live stream, I'm going to grab lunch and then I'm going to hop back on and go over the latest with Gervais' case. So the reason I'm a few minutes late is I've just finished downloading the 911 call and also the warrants for the arrest for Gervais' parents. The chatter online that the mother was responsible for Gervais' death is actually correct. It appears that we may have been wrong. The neighbours have said they actually did see Gervais around. They haven't seen her in over a month. But I'm going to get into that in my next live stream, which probably take me half an hour after I finish this one. So I'll probably aim to only make this live stream about an hour and a half so that I can jump off, grab some lunch, and then hop back on again with a live stream for Gervais. Because I know that people on the other side of the world will be wanting to head to bed. So I nearly cancelled this one, but then I thought, well, no, because this is what I scheduled. It's been a while since I did anything for Jack and Lily, so I thought, well, I will still go ahead with this live stream, and then I will just jump on and do one for Gervais straight afterwards. Welcome in people who are coming in. Well, I don't know the part about, I haven't looked at, I've downloaded the warrants, the documents, the arrest warrants, but I haven't had time to read through them yet, so I don't know. I do know that they confessed, the parents confessed. I do know that the mother basically beat her to death, which is heartbreaking. I've just downloaded the 911 call in full. She's not very convincing, in my opinion. It's no wonder that they were onto this straight away. Hopefully she has told them where they put Gervais. But it certainly seems that that little baby that's, not even a week old, certainly seems that little baby's not going to be ever reunited with its mother. So that's really, truly heartbreaking. But anyway, so hopefully some of you will join me for that after this live stream, after I've had a chance to grab some lunch. And also just to quickly edit the videos. Yeah, thankfully. I just don't know how they... I don't know how they could just cover something like this up. I wonder, I was commenting when I was going through their court appearances, the look of disdain on his face, the almost arrogance on his face. And I wonder now, and it makes sense, if the resentment from him was actually because she got him into this mess. Maybe he is someone who struggles a little bit with, not so well educated, possibly not a really high IQ, and maybe in that relationship, she's the one who is the controller. and he's been sort of just dragged along with it. Yeah, it's doing my head in. But hopefully some of you will be able to join me for that live stream later on. Because I think I'm going to need help processing it. And I shouldn't be trying to process it right now when we should be talking about Lily and Jack. Oh yeah, there's the puppies, and that was definitely him. So maybe they are just perfectly matched. I will never play that full video. I actually deleted it after my live stream, like the full version of that video with him scaring the puppies in the pen. But definitely that was his handiwork. But her face in court, that was just complete indifference. There was no expression going on there at all. Maybe, we might watch some of her court appearance again during the live, depending on how much time we've got, and see if we can see anything in her expression. But I mean, is the woman a psychopath or a sociopath, or I'm really struggling to get my head around it, to figure out how a mother could beat their own child to death. How does a person reach that point? Anyway, I will come back to that in another live stream after this one. I'm going to start just quickly with this to sort of as a lead-in.
I had a glass of wine and poured another. Told the bad boy come right over. Left both doors open wide. He said you best be armed, I'm coming inside. I grabbed my pew and some Merlot. Called my husband, said here we go. Message detectives on my phone. The bad guys coming, I'm not alone. They're chasing me down the road, doing 140 in my Mercedes load. Call 911, but they're too slow. Gotta reach the cops before they know. 6 police cars on my face. Ski mask dude in a Honda Chase. I'll race them all with my V8 while calling Ralph. Don't make me wait. He said slow down. I said no way. These hillbillies want me today. Pulled up to the station gate. The cops just stared and made me wait. They're chasing me down the road, doing 140 in my Mercedes load. Called 911, but they're too slow. Gotta reach the cops before they know. 'Met detectives at Tim Hortons, played the tape of all his warnings. Mad Dog said you did just right, while 9 more crates come out at night. Husband told him I'm not crazy, sent the cops home being lazy. Tomorrow getting faster wheels for when more villains chase my steel. They're chasing me down the road, doing 140 Mercedes load. Called 911, but they're too slow. Gotta reach the cops before they know.
Okay, that sets the tone a little bit more. Yeah, I'm just going to put this up because it is so important to consider. We're not supposed to be able to wrap our heads around the situation with Javea, because it's not natural. It's not something that for normal people is conceivable. Now, I didn't actually welcome anybody in when I started. I was just in that sort of hit the ground running mode because I was, like I said, I was downloading documents and getting the 911 call and everything before jumping in. So I kind of missed everyone. So oh, new member, welcome in, Ange, and welcome to memberships. Welcome in Dawn, Bonza, Anki, Milky Way Girl. I know this is a bit of a rushed welcome, but I sincerely apologise. Princess Pillow, Callie, Women's Warrior, Deborah, Michelle. I think I've got everybody. Just scrolling right down through. Yeah, welcome in everyone anyway. If I've missed welcoming you, it's good to have you in here. Thank you for joining me. Like I said, if you are able to join me after this one, we'll go through the documents for Javea. Now, I realised yesterday after I finished my Maddie live stream that please don't turn it into a half hour like the other channels. No, I won't. That's why I like to get online quickly. It's like I like to try and be in here about 15 minutes before I start my live stream so I can get all my media lined up, and also so I can just greet everyone individually in chat rather than do that whole long spiel. Because I kind of don't want my channel to be like that. I don't want to be the person that does the listing of names. I love greeting people and I love acknowledging people, but I also hate when I go into a channel and they spend 20 minutes just greeting everyone. So no, I won't. I won't be down. I won't be that. Okay, so yesterday when I did my Maddie live stream, I forgot to mention for anyone who is new to Maddie's case and possibly do need to set 2 times. Although, you know, if I can actually get out of bed at a reasonable time, then I can actually be on time. Anyone who is new to Maddie's case, if you are wanting to find documents, all the main documents are on my Patreon account. There's a bunch of documents that I still need to upload, and if I am going to continue doing live streams on Maddie's case, then I will make sure I get them up and loaded. My Patreon is free to join, and all the documents and things are also free to download. There are a few tiers. There's a $1 tier and a $2 tier for anyone who wants to actually just support my channel, but I only put them there because a few people were like, well, can you do that? My goal with setting up Patreon was just to make everything accessible for people. In terms of the warrants for Javea, because they have someone else's watermark on them, I'll have to see if I can get hold of clean copies of them if I put them on Patreon, because I can't really put someone else's copyrighted things on Patreon. But I will be going through them in my live stream anyway, so I guess you can always screenshot them from the live when I do that. Welcome in, Dodie and Ernestine. Good to see you in here. In terms of Maddie live streams, I did put a post out yesterday saying that I wasn't sure if I could keep doing the live streams on Maddie because YouTube has decided to limit the payments essentially for that one. Basically, they put not suitable for all advertisers onto that video. I've put in a dispute, which means that they will probably sit on it for a few days until they've had the bulk of the views, and then they might change it. So essentially, I don't earn anything off that video. And they did that to me a lot when I was covering Maddie's case before. I think it's because of the nature of the crime. So I will do another Maddie live stream next Monday. If they demonetize that, I might have to do them as premieres where I just come and chat while it plays. But it certainly seems that YouTube is putting the censorship in and could make it very hard for me to do my Maddie series, which just makes me so frustrated. That's the thing. I don't buy this, limited ads BS. Especially because when I deal with cases like Maddie's, I'm always very sensitive about how I deal with it. So there's always going to be advertisers that they can put in. And they put ads on channels that aren't demonetized. You go to watch a video or a live stream from a channel that's not monetized, and you get an ad at the beginning. Well, that money's not going to that content creator because they're not monetized. And anyway, I shouldn't keep on the rant with YouTube, but it just makes me wild. And I actually did an experiment. When I was covering Maddie's case, I'd gone through, when I was covering the documents especially, anytime I went through one of the court documents, probably 9 times out of 10, they would demonetize it. And just to experiment, one of my videos that I put up, and it was a Detective Tagler video. I can remember the thumbnail really distinctly. I put up a video with Detective Tagler in it. It was a document read through or something, or it could have even been a motions hearing, and it got demonetized. And I was just like, this is getting ridiculous. There's no reason for this to be demonetized. So I uploaded it onto my other channel, unlisted, and there were no restrictions. So it's not just their censorship, they're not even consistent. And I know that other channels that were covering Maddie weren't being penalised like I was. One other channel was, and I don't know if he did something that he probably didn't, because he lost his channel not long after we stopped covering Maddie's case. And I don't know if that's because he was doing something to try and get around the censorship, and they penalised him for it. Yeah, YouTube is, the censorship is ridiculous. The inability to follow their own policies is ridiculous. Anyway, I better stop because otherwise I could be the next channel that just vanishes. Okay, so what I'm going through in this live stream is Belynda did another panel thing with Hidden in the Fog. So shout out to Belynda. Thank you for doing this. Maybe put all your lives to members only. No, I will never grift off people like that. The sole purpose of having my channel is to be a voice for the voiceless, basically, to speak out for victims, to give awareness. The only reason that I'm monetized is because I'm not made of money. I can't afford to do it for free. I if I had to fund all my subscriptions, all my internet costs, if I had to fund that myself, I wouldn't be able to do it. So I have to be monetized. But I would never cross the line of doing a live stream and then switching it to members only as soon as I finished. Because that is the ultimate in grifting. And to me, that is making money off the backs of little children. But, it is important for me to get these stories out there and to make a difference. So it just really makes me angry when YouTube penalise me for that. Yeah, $7.99 for membership. I wouldn't pay $7.99 for membership for his channel. And you know exactly who I'm talking about. If you're in chat, you do know exactly who I'm talking about. I mean, he's not even dealing in facts. It's just become a fan fiction channel where they make up stories. And people listen to the stories and they believe the stories. I pay $7.99 a month for membership to Hidden True Crime. And I do that because Lauren Matthias and John Matthias are professionals. Lauren was a professional journalist, now just working with John on their channel. And John is a forensic psychiatrist. And John is amazing. John becomes very nervous about speaking on YouTube. So a lot of the time when he's got some really insightful things to share, they do it as a members only because John is more comfortable than that. And also because sometimes the things they discuss are a bit more sensitive. So I pay $7.99 a month for membership for Hidden True Crime because I'm paying to listen to a professional who is really good at what he does and really insightful at what he does. You look at the comparison, it's just a joke. Like, honestly, why some people have some severely overblown egos. I mean, I'm the sort of person where I did throw in a few extra tiers with my memberships that I don't expect people to join, because I look at the two bottom tiers and I think, why do people want to be members? Like, what do I have to offer that makes me different? So when I see someone who thinks that their bottom tier should be $7.99 and that they're worth that, when all they do is put out false stories, I don't understand it. I really don't. Anyway, back to Belynda. So thank you, Belynda, for doing for speaking out again. I haven't actually had a chance to listen to this at all. Thank you for Susan for doing this conversation and getting it out there. Also appreciated. And I realise now that I may have to, before I follow up with this in another live stream, I may have to actually edit the original audio. Anyway, I won't go down that track. Those of you who've listened to other live streams from Hidden in the Fog before probably know where I'm going with that anyway. But thank you to Hidden in the Fog and Belynda Gray for this. Oh, thank you, Dodie. I don't even notice my Australian accent. And I know a few more people have come in, so welcome to the people who've come in. Greatly appreciate you being here. Okay, let's bring this up onto stage. Okay, waiting. It's coming.
Hey, Belynda, how are you?
Hi. I've just been listening, and actually I've been kind of falling asleep, but I did hear your comment about Brad Wong and Smith.
Right.
Now, Smith reached out to the police on May 2nd that morning. That is in the audio tapes.
You tell him, Belynda. I'm so glad that Belynda just comes out with facts. She doesn't buy into all the BS. She knows the facts of this case. In fact, there have been times when I've done live streams or videos and Belynda has emailed me afterwards to just let me know where I've got something wrong, which I'm always grateful of clarification. So, again, another shout out to Belynda. And also, if you're someone listening to my content and you hear me say something incorrect in one of my live streams or my videos, then please do add that correction, because I don't want to be that person that keeps repeating incorrect information and then it becomes set in stone because other people repeat what I say. So, yeah, Belynda is definitely keeping things real. She's that solid rock that we can hold on to in this case. Someone who is not buying into the drama, the BS. Someone who is sticking with the facts. Although she's still, I think, in her head struggling a bit with the Anita situation. But we'll get to that. And I can't blame her. If someone comes forward saying, I've got all this information to share with you, and then turns out to be a complete utter whack job, there's going to be that part of you that wants to hold on to any of the information they gave you that might have given you hope.
Okay.
He reached out right away. Now, coming from Brad Wong, I've talked to Brad Wong. He reached out 2 or 3 days later. He didn't want to get involved because, he doesn't have a great relationship with the police, so he did not want to get involved. But his wife talked him into it because it was 2 kids missing. He
Sure.
reached out, I think it was 2 or 3 days later. I could be off by a day. He reached out to the RCMP. It took the RCMP another 2 weeks to get back to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was really pissed off that it took them so long, and he told them to go F themselves. So he refused to sign his statement.
That's classic. I could imagine Brad Wong doing that just from what we've learned of him. And again, Brad Wong and Justin Smith are heroes in this case. I mean, both of them were still living in the community at the time. Both of them were surrounded by Mackenzies and Martells, and they still came forward. Okay, so for anyone who's just trying to catch up with this case, Brad Wong and Justin Smith are neighbours of Daniel, Malaya, Janie. And the early hours of the morning before the children were reported missing, they both heard a vehicle coming and going. Now, where Brad lives, he has basically a view of the driveway on Gairloch Road because his house is slightly more elevated. His property is slightly more elevated, and it's in a direct line with the house on Gairloch Road. And he heard a car coming and going about 4 or 5 times in the early hours of the morning of May the 2nd. But he also saw the headlights through the trees going up and down that driveway. So he was able to pinpoint it and say that there was a car coming and going in the early hours of the morning between 12 and 5 a.m, the morning that Lily and Jack were reported missing. Justin Smith also heard a vehicle, and he made contact with RCMP on the day that the children were missing, were reported missing. Sorry. These guys have been absolutely crucified by Daniel and his supporters. There's been a major attempt to discredit them because it sounds like, as witnesses, they are crucial. Yeah, Justin never has been asked what he was doing when he heard the vehicles. I think Justin was probably wise in basically going to ground because, you saw how they've treated Brad. So I think, we've got more information from Brad Wong because he spoke to the media. We've got more information from him because he did come out on people's live streams. Justin, it sounds like he actually left the area fairly quickly. I know him and his wife had separated, so I'm guessing he was probably in the process of looking for somewhere else to live at the time. I think he just sort of read the room and went, I'm going to stay quiet. Yes, Belynda tells it as it is. Her and Chelsea are the ones that aren't selling an agenda, aren't trying to convince us that one or other or all three are innocent. Because it's kind of ridiculous that there's no way that whatever happened to those children, we cannot go off that property. Whatever happened to Lily and Jack happened on that property. And yet, every single one of those people that was on the property is adamant that they are innocent. And so she should. There were 3 people on that property that we know of, at least, when Lily and Jack went missing. Whatever happened to Lily and Jack happened on that property. So I agree with Belynda. All three need to be held accountable. Yeah. It certainly happened long before Malaya rang 911. I'm still leaning towards Thursday evening. But it is interesting that you have Daniel claiming that he flicked the light on in their room at around midnight, or a bit after midnight, you know, that time-ish. I kind of think that could just be deflection, because he was probably already in the car around that time. Don't know. Anyway, let's keep going with this. I was just reading other comments. I have a very, very long playlist with Lily and Jack. You will catch up a lot if you're just listening to my live streams and stuff, because I certainly go over things quite a lot. No, I haven't seen. My gosh, there's a Patrick Swayze movie that I haven't seen. Well, I'll be Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze in it. I'm up for anything with Patrick Swayze in it. He was one of my teenage crushes. I probably shouldn't admit that. And I was devastated when he died. But I haven't watched that movie. Although I will just say, sometimes some movies, for some reason, when they're released in Australia, they change the name. But no, I'm drawing a blank. I'm completely drawing a blank. Wow. Yeah, Patrick Swayze in Dirty Dancing. The ultimate. Oh, they made a. I hate it when they do remakes and they ruin good movies. You know that when I have some relaxation time, I'm gonna get hold of it and watch it. Free to air TV a week or two ago, so it might still actually be somewhere free to air. I've discovered if I just do a search, if I go into my Apple, like iTunes kind of thing, and do a search for a movie, it tells me all the different options. In terms of where I can find those movies or shows or whatever. So if I do that, I should be able to find a free-to-air version. Honestly, in terms of content with this case, I do watch Justin when I've got time, but he doesn't cover it very often. But I pretty much stopped watching any other content for Lily and Jack because there's too much one-sidedness. There's idiot channels who are just putting out BS. It's gone beyond ridiculous. I heard puppy paws, but I don't know where they got to. Okay, I might. I know I barely started. Oh, you do? Hang on, darling. Right, okay, Amira's just gotten up and she needs to go out. So let's have a bit of Superman Dan while I take Amira out, and then I'll get going and I'll focus a bit more.
Dad's live in a trailer with rusted pants. Mom's dog's bald, it's got no flair. Lost all its hair, and it don't care. Pink blanket flies, I've told again. Footprints vanish like phantom friends. I'm Superman, Daniel, faster than wind, stronger than a chopper with a rotor spin. I rake my driveway while Mom shakes her fist. Super Daniel, yeah, I can't be missed.
I like this one better, I think.
Not allowed on Mama's ATV. She says I drive it recklessly. X wrote her name on my mirror in red. Now I'm searching cold, it's like I lost my head. Dirt roads, rivers, waist high deep. Virginia swims, I puff and leap. I'm Superman, Daniel, faster than wind, stronger than a chopper when the rotors spin. I rake my driveway while Mom shakes her fist. Super Daniel, yeah, I can't be missed. No out on Mama's ATV. She says I drive it recklessly. X wrote her name on my mirror in red. Now I'm searching culverts like I lost my head. Dirt roads, rivers, waist high deep. Virginia swims, I puff and leap. I'm Superman, Daniel, arrogant and bold, strutting pop lines in the cold. Work one day a week at the sawmill grind. Super Daniel, yeah, on my time. I'm Superman, Daniel, arrogant and bold, strutting pop lines in the cold. Work one day a week at the sawmill grind. Super Daniel, yeah, on my time.
Even with me running through the woods over the head of the helicopters and head of the drones and stuff like that.
That's a good one.
Okay, I've got 2 or 3 dogs back inside, so I may have to just, in a minute, just mute and go and shut the door when Amira comes in, because it's still kind of cold this morning, so I don't want to leave the door open for too long, but I will keep going with this audio. It is really interesting hearing that Brad did actually come forward in the first couple of days, because I was actually saying last week, I think it was, that that there must have been something that happened the day before they called, scaled back the search, because we had them in, talking to the press the day before they scaled back the search and saying, you know, we're not going anywhere, we're not stopping, we're going to keep doing this until Jack and Lily are found, or until, essentially until we've got a reason to stop. And then the next day they're going, yeah, we're scaling back the search. So, I was saying there must have been something that happened on the 7th to convince them to scale back the search. If Brad went forward on the 3rd or the 4th, maybe they looked at the information from him, maybe they got hold of some trail cams or something that we don't know about and confirmed what he was saying. Because I think the information from Brad and Justin is definitely the most significant information in this case, in my opinion. Now, I'm just going to mute for 1 second. I'm going to go dash and shut the back door, and I'll be back in 2 seconds. Sorry about that. I hate dead air, but I've already played 2 songs, and I didn't want to actually make it like another 2-3 minute break while I shut the door, which only takes 20 seconds. Their comment most recently that something along the lines of that it forms part of their investigation. It's a dead giveaway. It definitely says to me that they've verified the information, in my opinion.
Okay.
Now, he gave the statement, he just refused to sign it. Now, as for Smith, now I heard this on another channel, and I was told on that channel that I think it's Justin Smith, I think that's his name.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yes. Justin Smith actually had a lawyer for his statement.
I'm just going to pause on that comment. I don't know which channel told Belynda this or where she heard this, but I have noticed that recently there is a channel that has been suddenly bending over backwards to try and discredit Justin. Because clearly Justin and Brad are the biggest threat to these individuals. So for someone to be coming out 12 months later and claiming that Justin did this through a lawyer, I'm not going to put a lot of weight on it. Especially because when I read the documents, to me the documents don't read in a way that would make me think that Justin approached them with a lawyer. I mean, maybe he's the type that lawyers up to speak to cops, but I'm not on board with this. And like I said, I have seen one channel really suddenly trying to go hard at Justin, trying to discredit him now, I guess because people are like, well, you know, we believe Brad. So now they're going to go up to Justin. So yeah, just bear that in mind in terms of this information. Oh yeah, great channels. I've followed Brian Anton since Gabby's case. Same with Ashley. Chris McDonough, I absolutely adore. Also Duty Ron, especially when he has Ed Wallace there with him. Because Ed Wallace is a genius, especially when it comes to forensics. The lab, which is Joshua Diaz, and he's the one where Chris goes on and does, you know, panel discussions. And Plunder True Crime. Paula is one of the best, in my opinion. She puts so much work into what she does. She is constantly doing FOIA requests, putting in FOIA requests nonstop. Her Patreon is a wealth of materials. I am a member of her Patreon, but I just love Paula's channel. There's a few really good ones like that. I'm trying to think of, there's some other ones that I can picture them. I just can't come up with the names right now. But Hidden True Crime, Lauren and John that I mentioned before, they're wonderful. There's some really, really good channels out there that are no nonsense. Don't buy into the BS. Ignore the BS. And just they're in it for the right reasons. That's for sure. I should actually, because I know there's a lot of people who are maybe new to, FOIA is freedom of information. So that's getting your documents, your videos, body cam footage and stuff like that. And Paula just spends a fortune of her own money because sometimes FOIA requests are expensive, but she also spends a lot of her time. Bonza, if you love body cam videos, Paula now has a new channel. It's still Plunder True Crime, but I think it's Plunder True Crime Body Cams or something. I'll have to get the link for you for it because she just has a lot of raw footage on that channel, which is brilliant. Okay, so let's go back to what she's saying about Justin Smith.
Okay.
And that's what I know about those two.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, Sailor Moon had mentioned that she thought that it was in fact reported fairly soon, but that the RCMP didn't come and collect it. So you're confirming that then? Okay.
Yes. And it was Brad in the end when he met up. I think Justin stated he heard a vehicle around, I thought it was around 1:30. He had heard a vehicle. He only heard one vehicle.
Right. What do you know about this information from Anita about the Stephanie public health nurse thing?
Okay. So just a quick warning for people. And yeah, Belynda is right in terms of it was around 1:30 that Justin says he heard a vehicle. Now, I actually don't actively go on those Facebook pages anymore because they've just deteriorated into complete utter crap, in my opinion. But occasionally there are things that come up in my feed and I see them. I wouldn't be surprised if this Stephanie that they are talking about is a sock account created by Anita. Apparently she's a friend of Cindy's. But if she is, she's someone who's coming out for attention only. And I've seen a lot of statements that are apparently from this Stephanie that are things that I can easily debunk. I strongly believe that this Stephanie is a sock account. I put no credibility on anything that comes from this account. Welcome in, reader. So I just wanted to give that warning beforehand because I'm always cautious about playing things like this on my channel in case people think that they're hearing from a credible source. And from everything I see when I look at this Stephanie that's just randomly appeared, I don't see her as a credible source. I also find the timing interesting because she seems to have appeared around the time that Anita was completely discredited by everyone other than the vodka man. So it seems that Anita was discredited, she was proven to be a grifter and a liar, and all of a sudden we get this Stephanie pop up, who's allegedly a friend of Cindy. So I just wanted to get that said, get that in there before we go on.
Anita had mentioned to me about Cindy having a friend named Stephanie. She never gave me a last name, or if she did, I never thought to write it down.
Of course, she never gave a last name.
Okay.
Now, I thought this Stephanie was a relation to Cindy's father's family.
Okay.
That's what I thought I heard from Anita back when she first started contacting me.
Well, that's interesting. So Belynda was Anita's first target. And I'm going to put it that way because that's what she has done. She has targeted people trying to find the most gullible with her stories, or the biggest grifter, because clearly the channel that she now goes on, he's only in it for the money, because if he truly has any capabilities when it comes to statement analysis, he would have known from the get-go that the woman is making up complete utter BS. But straight away, red flags for me when Belynda is saying that the first thing she heard of this Stephanie was that it was Anita telling her. I do feel that, just listening to Belynda, I feel that she's still struggling to understand that whole histrionic personality type that is Anita, because I think she's still trying to find truth in the things that Anita has told her, when from me listening to this Anita woman, it is really, really clear that the stories she tells are not from experience, not from lived experience. All her stories are fabrications. And when she's trying to convince people at first, she starts with repetition of a story that she's heard either from another YouTube channel, or she's been in the private chat rooms on Facebook, or just following the Facebook pages. She starts out repeating known stories and inserting herself into those stories, so that the people she's talking to think she's knowledgeable, thinks she was there. But if you listen to all her things that she says, any of the solid information, the things that, as Belynda would say, well, I'd heard that already, you can find. Any of the stuff that doesn't sound completely insane, you're going to find the origins. It's going to be something Wade said. It's going to be something that Hayley said. Classic example, that live stream where the Vodka Man subscribers are saying, she sounds like that witness, the handy van woman, or whatever it was. And he was, no, it wasn't the handy van woman, it was the fake ID woman. So they're having this discussion in a live stream, saying that they think she sounds like this fake witness that had gone forward on the Hidden in the Fog channel. He had no idea what they were talking about. She had no idea what they were talking about. And the next live stream, she comes on and she's telling her own version of the story that was put out by the fake witness. So this fake witness had been saying that their husband was a plumber. He'd gone to open up the cabins at the end of winter, just get them ready for people to go in. And he found these fake IDs in the cabins. I can't remember all the details because it was BS. So Anita comes out in the next live stream and says, well, you know, Cindy and I drove out to Pictou County. This is after previously saying she'd never been to Pictou County, never been to Daniels. But she claims Cindy and I drove out there, and Cindy was hiding under a blanket on the back seat when I drove into the property on Gaelic Road, and I spoke to Daniel, and then we just, you know, kind of just randomly went to these cabins and found these fake IDs in these cabins. That's how she operates, and it was a classic example. Seeing it from one live stream to the next, where people were saying you sound like this person, that neither of them had any idea what they were talking about, and then the very next live stream, she's regurgitating the same story with inserting herself, inserting Anita, and making it her own. So when I hear Belynda saying, well, Anita told me this, and not giving the warning of this woman is not credible, yeah, Anita is nobody. Anita knows Wade from when they were little. Apparently their grandparents know each other. Anita has an obsession with Wade, who, by the way, has blocked her. And it sounds like around the time that Lily and Jack went missing, from what I've gleaned from multiple sources, it appears that Anita and possibly her partner, because I'm not sure if they're even still together, they were evicted from wherever it was they were living around the time that Lily and Jack went missing. And apparently they turned up at Cindy's place and stayed there. The time frame ranges between a couple of days to like 5 days to possibly a week. According to Anita, she was there from the Sunday after Lily and Jack went missing. But at the same time, she claims she was also there in the June when Malaya allegedly did a runner to the reserve, which would make her having to have been there for 6 weeks, which she wasn't. She also claims that she was still there at the time when Tint went and recorded Wade secretly, and that was in August. And yet she definitely admits that she was definitely not more than there for more than a week. So she's a bit of a time traveler. And she keeps adding the more ridiculous, more extreme stories every time she opens her mouth. But Belynda sees the good in everyone, and also Belynda hasn't followed other cases, so she's never seen these sorts of personalities that just pop up out of nowhere and come up with these crazy stories for attention. But you get them. I've seen them so often in cases, it's insane. Yeah. She claims that she had Baby M in her car and Malaya was in a different car following, and all this BS. Like, come on.
That this and I think Stephanie is some type of a nurse or caretaker or something, but she is a friend of Cindy's.
Yeah, public health nurse or something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I understand that there was a phone call made at 11 p.m. May the 1st to Cindy.
Now, I have heard this only like within the past couple of weeks that I've heard this statement.
Right.
Anita never mentioned nothing to me about that phone call when she was talking with me.
Right.
Of course, Anita never mentioned anything about that phone call to you when she was talking with you because she hadn't invented it at that point in time. This is something that I do need to go back to and do a video on, because basically when you look at the documents, they've made it pretty clear what the timeline is in terms of phone calls. Now, if we have the information in the documents about that 8:30 a.m. attempted phone call from Malaya to Cindy, there is no reason whatsoever for them to leave out an 11 p.m. phone call from the night before. And of course, if Cindy believes that the children went missing on the Friday morning, and if Malaya is maintaining that the children went missing on the Friday morning, then that phone call would be recorded in the documents from RCMP. But it's not recorded in the documents. So that phone call never happened. It is a new fabrication by Anita. And I think people have got to really start to question any sort of information like this that is suddenly coming out after 14 months. Look at the source. Question where it's coming from. Because in this instance, if it had happened, exactly, Kelly. If it had happened, it would be in the documents. Because the story that was pushed out was that Lily and Jack went missing Friday morning. If Cindy was upfront enough to give the information about that 8:30 a.m. phone call, which does throw a spotlight back on Malaya, then an 11 p.m. phone call would be pretty damn innocent. Not only that, 11 p.m., sorry. Not only that, Malaya told investigators that she put the kids to bed at 9 o'clock. Maybe she put the kids to bed at 10 o'clock, and then she put her and Meadow to bed after that. So had she given that statement to RCMP, which essentially puts her in bed long before 11, they would have been questioning it. So it is a definite fabrication that people have run with.
Right, and that Cindy and Stephanie headed and went to Gerlach Road, which
That is the story I hear now, yes.
Yeah, which would take roughly about an hour from Wentworth.
Now, I'm no good at estimating time to travel from one place to another if I don't go there, so.
Okay.
Oh, I see where Anita's going with this. Anita must have ESP. So the story, it sounds like the story that she has put out is that Cindy had a phone call from Malaya at 11 p.m. And then this Stephanie went with Cindy on the Thursday night after 11 p.m. to Gerlach Road, which would have her arriving around midnight, probably, around the time that Daniel was flicking on the light for the children, allegedly. How do people even still listen to this Anita woman? She's a complete utter whack job. So, all right. So now they're placing Cindy and Malaya's family as the ones driving around all night. Oh, dear God. No wonder credible channels aren't touching this case anymore. There's never going to be new channels coming to this case. At least not until arrests are made. Because if there was someone from another channel who wanted to jump in and start covering this case, they would not be able to make heads or tails of any of it because of all this BS. Oh, yeah. She needs to give up on the wine. She needs to give up on the other stuff. Yes, that is significant to me. That is very significant. Oh, I can't believe that this crazy woman is still putting out new stories and people believe it. And as much as I love Belynda, and actually she's not the one that brought it up, it was Susan who brought it up. But there's a reason I don't usually discuss Scamnita Wackadoodle on this channel. Because if someone comes in, they come into a live stream partway through, and I'm reporting something that Scamnita has said, and they miss the part where I point out that it's a complete load of BS. Yeah. She has hay fever. Yep. It just takes one person mishearing if I repeat one of the BS stories that Anita said, and then suddenly that story is being spread around. There's a reason why all the content creators are ignoring Scamnita, because they don't want to be putting out information that's wrong. Honestly.
I couldn't fill you in on that one.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting though, because it would put the time roughly around midnight. And the thing about it is that we know that Daniel has put midnight in his timeline, saying that that was the time that he turned the light on to check on Lily and Jack in their bedroom. And it's just, I don't know, it's curious to me that...
I've had questions about that light coming on in the bedroom, and I've been curious about that, wondering why it was said. Was it...
For those of you who may not be familiar with Susan's channel, she has a different perspective on this case from many of us. I do get the sense that she's starting to change her views, perhaps. But for a very long time, she was sold on Durwood's version of essentially someone has the children. Now, I don't know if she's still trying to sell that, but she's definitely had a bit of a lean towards being pro-Daniel. So just keep that in mind when you're listening to this conversation, because it does colour the way she talks about things, in my opinion. Daniel's story of flicking the light on at midnight. I definitely need to go and have another look at the documents, but I'm pretty certain it's not something that was introduced early on. I think essentially him saying that he flicked the light on around midnight, saw the children were asleep in their beds, and then he went to bed himself, or I think he doesn't actually say that, but that's what he's inferring. I think the idea that there is because we have this information of Brad hearing a car between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m. So in Daniel's mind, the best way to debunk that information is to place the children in their beds at midnight and place him essentially going to bed around the same time. The likelihood of two children being abducted in a rural area from a property that is set back from the road on a day when they should be in school, I don't think there's ever been a case like this. If you do the victimology, the chances are very slim, very slim. It would have to have been a crime of opportunity. But the thing is, we're talking about a location where people just drive through. Unless someone just happened to have stopped on the side of the road right there where the trailer was for who knows what reason, to get something out of the trunk of their car, and they just happened to spot two children playing in a yard behind a house, even though you can't see into the yard. When you start to break it down, it just didn't happen. And I think that's one of the many reasons why RCMP came out strong in that first week and said that there was no abduction. Yeah, if they lived in a built-up area, maybe. We just have to look at Michael Vaughan. He got out the side gate, and Stacey Wanderer had him almost straight away. But in a rural area where essentially that house, if you are driving along that road, you would be past that house before you even knew it was there. So, exactly, even just one of them going missing from that location is extremely unlikely. We're talking about a possibility in like 0.1% because of the location. And when you have two kids together, it is pretty much impossible.
Maybe somebody was worried that a light was visible to the public somewhere, so a story had to be created. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was curious about that. The other thing I was curious about, and I asked Anita to find out from Wade. Now, I can only tell you what I was told by Anita. I don't know if it's actual truth.
I would say it's not actual truth. Yeah, just like Summer Wells. You do a victim thingy, what's it? Sorry, my brain's a bit behind right now. There's no way Summer Wells was ever abducted. I agree with Chris McDonough. Summer never left that property in terms of what happened to her. Possible that I look at that photo of her with the milk carton and I do feel that she probably was deceased in the vehicle. But in terms of abduction, not a chance. Kid's bedroom is in the front of house bedroom, light visible from the road. Yeah. That's a really good point. So it is possible that in Brad's statement that maybe, now I don't know the layout of Brad's house, but I would imagine that quite likely if someone was in that upstairs part of Brad's house, that they probably could see up to the trailer on Gerlock Road. So maybe someone did report seeing a light on at around midnight in their bedroom. And maybe Daniel and Malaya were so busy with their cover-up they didn't realise. So now Daniel had to give that story to explain. That makes sense. Yeah, Malaya with the deleted app certainly raises questions. Anyone who followed Maddie's case would know that you can retrieve pretty much everything from electronic devices, regardless. Stephen Stearns did a factory reset on his phone twice before law enforcement took it. But unfortunately for him, his images had started to load back on his phone. Hence the reason that he got arrested for that. And of course, from that, they got a warrant. Had a look at his Google Drive online, and the guy was buried, well and truly. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Maybe they were worried that someone saw the light on in the room, and yeah, and so that he came up with that story. No, nothing is deleted. And especially when it comes to things like this app that Malaya removed. Because that's why the RCMP did a records request with that company. Because it meant that they could access her records. They could access the data that had been deleted. But see, when law enforcement take someone's phone, they download the whole phone. Now, it comes out in code. It takes like a specialist, a forensic analyst, to actually go through and then put it into a sort of readable form. But everything that you've deleted is still there. When it comes to downloading phones, there are different levels that they can go to. So they can download it at a superficial level. I think there's 3 levels. At the highest level, when they download, because every time law enforcement do a data download from a phone, a little bit of data is lost. So they want to do it as few times as possible. So chances are, in a case like this, they will have done it at the highest level. So the software, there's different software, there's different levels in terms of what you can download, depending on what you need. Stephen Stearns' phone, when they did a download on his phone, I remember Paula saying that she wasn't certain about whether or not to pay the money for the FOIA for his phone because there were thousands and thousands of pages worth of data. So even if that app was deleted, they would have been able to access data from the company. But when they downloaded Malaya and Daniel's phones, anything that's been deleted, they would have downloaded them at the top level where basically they got everything. So we're talking, you know, probably thousands of pages worth of data off those phones. So anyway, I got sidetracked again, as I do. Just keep going a bit longer.
I have no idea.
Sure.
But I wanted to know about the kids' bedrooms because Daniel stated about there was a divider built in the rooms.
Okay.
So I asked Anita if she could find that out because I know it was a contention when Daniel was on the DT show. And he said, well, Daniel, you could put it to rest. All you have to do is just go take a picture and show us the divider in the room, that there's no closets in the room. But Daniel refused to do that. So that made me curious. So I asked Anita if she could find out.
As if Anita would have the faintest clue. If we're being told that there was a divider in the room, well, it's not something that is going to impact the overall narrative. So for starters, there's no reason to come up with that story. But secondly, and I will have to go through all my photos of the house, but there is one of the photos of the front of the house where you can clearly see a divider in the window. And I will go through that, and I might do just a short video of that, just to show people. But no, the kids did not have bunks. The kids did have a divider in their room. If you go through the images of the property taken by the media, you can specifically see a divider in the room. Again, how could Anita... Yeah, exactly, Kelly. How could Anita possibly know that? She wouldn't. She's basically made it up. I think they're referring to like a makeshift wall that was built, probably, you know, splitting the room in half, essentially. Yeah, it's possible they had mattresses on the floor. Now, going back to this, because this is really important. Thank you so much, Robin. I'm guessing that Belynda and Chelsea know about this. If you haven't made contact with them, I can, if you want to email me, if you don't have contact, I'd imagine you've been in contact with them. But if you haven't been in contact with them, I can help you get in contact with them both. Thank you for doing that. Yes. I'm going to put my email up. If you can email me, Robin, I have a lot of LiDAR maps that I have marked specific locations on. I have shared those with Chelsea and Belynda. But I'd be more than happy to share those with you. And certainly if anyone is keen to go and help with the search, I know these days there's the whole, insurance issues, yada, yada, yada. But I guess at the end of the day, if you're doing it not necessarily as officially an organised search, but as a bunch of people just meeting and searching, then that removes any sort of liability BS that might happen. Thank you. But email me if you want copies of LiDAR maps, things that I've located on LiDAR maps. And if you haven't had a chance to make contact with Belynda and Chelsea and need help with that, let me know. But I'd imagine you've probably spoken to them. There's several members of Belynda's family who have been out doing searches and are just, keen to do their bit, essentially. So, yeah, much appreciated. Much appreciated.
And Anita got back to me and she stated that Cindy said the kids slept in bunk beds. Lily slept on the bottom, Jack slept on the top. He used to wake up at night because he could hear rats in between the walls and he'd get scared.
What a load of BS from Anita. Oh gosh, yeah, we're heading up to, fingers crossed, because it was around this time last year when they closed the woods off, wasn't it? Yeah. Honestly, that's what is needed now. Someone with search experience who can give tips to other people who are willing to join them, and who is not going to be doing it for the wrong reasons. So you are one of Lily and Jack's angels, in my opinion. Anyone that is prepared to do their thing, anyone that has the capacity to do something like that and is willing to do so, you're making a difference. Even if it's just ruling out an area, you're making a difference. And it's also making a difference for family members like Belynda and Chelsea, who can't do much else because they're not being kept up to date with the investigation. They're not being spoken to by the 3 people that were on the property. So all they can do is make their signs for their marches in the streets, go out searching, those sort of things. Geddies, Darren Geddes, I'll let Callie explain that. Keep me up to date with this, Robin, because I will keep pushing it on my channel here for anyone who wants to join the search who's in the area. Yeah, more likely squirrels running around. I mean, Wade did say in that recorded audio with Tint, where he was like, well, there's rats in the walls. But I've heard from a very, very good source that Wade is good at exaggerating. You would smell. Yeah, rats especially have a smell. Belynda said there was no ammonia smell, and you would know. You would know if there were rats and mice in that trailer, because you would smell. That is a really distinctive smell.
He was upset because Lily's bed didn't have a sheet. This is what I was told by Anita.
And again, we go back to Anita focusing on Lily. It actually concerns me that she has this obsession with Lily. Because so often she forgets to even mention Jack. So many of Anita's stories are all about Lily. And it seems like she's done this here with Belynda.
Whether it's true, I don't know. But if they were sleeping in bunk beds, then what happened to the divider that was supposed to divide the rooms? So none of that has been answered.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm aware that he's on the panel. So, what is his name? Unar, are you aware that you're on the panel?
Okay, so I definitely need to go and edit the audio a bit there. I know it's only been a short live. It's only been an hour and a half. I can push back I haven't actually set a time for my live stream for Jabaya. And I guess, if people are wanting to go to bed, they can always watch it on replay. So I kind of feel like I'd like to keep going with this a little bit more, even though we've got a little bit of extra audio going from Susan that we don't really need. So if you want to keep going with listening to this audio, because I'm fascinated. I haven't listened to this. And like I said, people can always listen on replay if my live stream for Javea is a bit late for people to listen to. Put a 1 in chat if you want to keep going with this for a bit longer, and then I can do the Javea one later in the day, and people can just catch it on replay. I want to keep going, so put a 1 if you want to keep going. I can see Princess Pillow saying keep going. Yeah, let's keep going, because this is different. Cool. We're all on the same page. I know we're getting a lot of Anita BS right now, but I love that when Belynda shares this sort of thing, she doesn't share it blindly. Welcome in, little black bear. Yeah, I'm up for it. I feel like I've barely started, and like I said, I haven't listened to this audio, so even though I realise that before I go through more of this later, I need to go back through and edit the audio to get rid of some of the extra stuff. I'm keen to keep going. And, I can always do the other one as just a straight video as well. Depends. I'll see. I'll make up my mind after this, but let's keep going.
Are you?
Sorry, I could try and fast forward through, but if I do, I'll probably miss important bits of audio. So we just need to kind of stick with what she's saying right now, and we'll get back to the proper stuff in half a moment.
Unar, that you're on the panel, and welcome. No, he probably doesn't even know he's in the room. Anyway, okay. Yeah, so, and I mean, this is just a little thing, right? I mean, there could be all kinds of different reasons for this, but just on a normal kind of thing, I would put the youngest child on the bottom bunk.
I would too. But like,
Yeah, we had bunks. We grew up in a fairly small house. 4 kids in a small house. We all had bunks. And I was always really, really, really bummed because my email's up on the screen. It's scrolling up on the screen. Especially if Jack's a bedwetter. Good point, Bonza. I always wanted to be the one on the top bunk. But, when you're the baby of the family, you get the bottom bunk. So, it just shows the story is even less likely. But I will definitely, later today, I will pull up that photo where you can see quite clearly that there is a divider in that room. Because there weren't bunks in that house. There were not bunk beds. The top bunk isn't all that. It caused sinus issues for you. I can imagine. I must admit, I guess at least, because our bunks were in a corner and we also had a dresser, like a little dressing table thing next to the bunks. There was one teeny tiny, like one corner of my bunk that was like this little hidey hole because it was kind of closed in at like, three walls around it. But I always wanted that top bunk. I was always so envious. Oh yeah, falling off the top bunk, never a good thing. Never a good thing. Yeah, when you're an adult, bunks just aren't fun. Because you've either got the hassle of climbing up and down or the hassle of you sit up and bang your head. It wouldn't surprise me, Callie. It wouldn't surprise me in the least. I don't think Daniel would have gone out of his way to buy anything for Lily and Jack. And when you look at the ages that they were when they moved into that property, Jack would have still only been like 2.5, I think. 2, probably not even 2.5. No, Jack probably would have been about the same age as the baby. So when they moved onto that property, Jack wouldn't have even had a real bed at that point in time. So I can't see. First of all, let's go down the road of they did have real beds. So when they moved onto the property, Lily would have been big enough for her own bed. But Jack would have still been essentially in a crib. Are you telling me that Daniel would have been quite happy to then buy bunk beds, even though Lily already had a bed, when Jack was big enough to have his own bed? That is the biggest load of BS on this planet. Daniel would not have spent money buying bunk beds for Lily and Jack, and he wouldn't have allowed Malaya to spend money buying bunk beds for Lily and Jack. Your children had bunk beds. The oldest was on the top, middle on the bottom, and baby in a crib. Yeah. Oh yeah. We actually did have a floating wall in our bedroom. When my sister and I, there's a big gap between us and our older brothers. So when Mum and Dad bought the house, they only had 2 kids. And, you know, the family grew. So my grandfather was a carpenter, and he actually put a floating wall because it was an old house with really big rooms. So he put a floating wall in that room, and it became the bedroom for all 4 of us. And then after my brothers moved out, the floating wall was removed, and because it was a massive, massive room, the bunks were split apart, and my sister and I basically had our beds, like, you know, miles apart, opposite sides of the room. But I just can't see them spending that sort of money to buy bunks. I could imagine them buying bunks for Daniel's children, but not for Lily and Jack. And the other thing to consider there is that Daniel hadn't been living in the trailer when he met Malaya. Sounds like he was kind of couch surfing, or he wasn't living in the trailer. So in terms of Daniel's kids, in terms of their visitations, they would have only started sleeping at that property on Gairloch Road after Daniel moved in. So in that last 2-3 years. So potentially, when they moved in, it would have been, they would have had to have bought like 2 sets of bunk beds. I just don't see that happening. Welcome in, Dawn. Good to see more people coming in. Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? If he was couch surfing and manipulated his way into Paddy's house. I would imagine that he bombed Malaya pretty damn quickly, because that's usually the way it works, and was in there within a fortnight, is what we're being told. Yeah, you have got that nasty ass mattress outside. That could have been Jack's old one from when he went up into a big bed. I mean, yes, potentially they could have had bunk beds, but we know that's not the situation. We've heard from Jack. He's said that they divided the room because the kids they wouldn't settle. And when you look at photos from the right angle, you can see the divider in the window of their room. Hello? Do you need to go out? Okay, Mouse needs to go outside again. So I'm going to have to subject you to yet another. We're just going to get them all today by the looks of it. Just bear with me for a minute, and it's Mouse's turn. He did go out before, but apparently he needs to go out again.
know the cars are parked and watching me, they speed away when I step out the door. They take my pics and videos galore. Drones are buzzing high above my place, yet none appear online to show their face. No one sees my mom making the ground, just silent lights without a sound. It's like Christmas up in the sky, lights of every color shining bright. They flock to watch me every night, hoping for a glimpse or a fight. I run so fast they can't keep up. They chase me through the wasted flush. Every night it's all the same. Do they even know my name? It's like Christmas up in the sky, lights of every color shining bright. They flock to watch me every night, hoping for a glimpse or a fight. In my mind the drones are friends, red and white and blue they blend, watching out to keep me safe. But who's behind this endless chase? It's like Christmas in the sky, lights of every color blending bright. They flock to watch me every night, hoping for a glimpse of fight.
Okay, well, I think Mouse just wanted to go outside for a wander because he's still out there, so I'll just let him be. I don't think, now that it's actually sunny outside, I don't think it's too cold to just leave the door open when he comes back in anyway. So the situation, the family situation there is Malaya had full custody of Jack and Lily. She took Cody, their father, to court, and he didn't fight it. And from what we're learning, I suspect that Malaya pushed him into a corner and just made it emotionally too difficult for him to fight it. Then Daniel has his 2 older children from his marriage that broke up, and they were staying there every other weekend. Mouse suits him as well. I didn't name him. My sister actually came up with the name Mouse. And at the time I thought, oh, that just sounds so cliche, calling a Chihuahua Mouse. But it suits him. I haven't listened to it. This is why I'm keen to keep going, because Belynda is just the voice of reason in this case. She doesn't buy the BS. She thinks things through logically, and she pushes back when she needs to. The last time she was on this channel, there were things that Susan was saying and Belynda just pushed back. So, she's not afraid to say what she thinks.
I'm only going by what Anita had told me. I had
Yeah.
no idea. That I wish to God I would have thought to ask to see the kids' rooms. But things happen so quick that I never.
Yeah, of course. No. And your
You wouldn't be thinking, like Belinda said, things happen so fast. Because she only found out about the children being missing from the grandmother of one of her, from the mother of one of her other grandchildren, not from Malaya, because Malaya didn't bother telling anybody. So she wasn't able to go there and search till the Saturday, the day after they were reported missing. And from listening to what she said, it sounds like they got into it pretty quickly, like rocked up, spoke to Malaya, where would your kids likely to have been? Let's go. So it's not like she was sitting around just chatting with Malaya and had the opportunity to think of, can I see the bedroom? Can I see the play area? She was there to search for her grandchildren. And she gets back from the search and no, she went back the next day, I think it was, and is told, like, Malaya's gone. So in terms of the should've, could've, would've, it's regrets that she doesn't need to feel. I know it would be great to know these things, but I can understand where she's coming from, but, you know, she was there for a purpose, so she shouldn't blame herself for not clarifying things like that, but anyway.
This was totally somewhere else, right? You're looking for the kids. You're out there, you know, going through the woods trying to find these kids with ticks all over everything and bugs bites and
we're 14 months in, and I just wish to God now that I would have taken more notice of certain things around the place. As for holes in the floor, I know that's been talked about. I did not see any holes in the floor. It needed new canvas. The place was run down inside and it needed to be fixed up. It could be fixed up. The only hole that I did know was out in the porch. There was a hole in the floor out in the porch.
Okay.
God bless Belynda. It is so good to have her just coming out and saying, this is how it really is. Welcome in, Hustler. Good to see you here. So, again, that comes from Wade over-exaggerating. Him saying there's holes in the floor, when the reality sounds like there were holes in the lino on the floor covering boards. Oh, me too. But then that's only me coming at it from the perspective of someone who's been following cases like this for many, many years. Yes, Malaya did tell Belynda that Justin was staying there. And yet now they're doing their best to debunk that, doing their best to also discredit Belynda.
Can I ask you, you know, because you'd never been in there before, right?
Right.
When you walked in, was there an odor of any kind?
Not that stood out to me. I mean, it smelled like a trailer. It smelled like a trailer that was lived in. But no, I did not smell like ammonia or Javex. And no, there was no smell of animals in there either.
What's Javex? Is that like a bleach, maybe? Right there. She did not smell ammonia, and there was no smell of animals. It is bleach. Thanks for that. Yeah, I would be, you know, like I said, from my perspective, I'd be wanting to see the kids' bedroom. But anyway, yeah, it really doesn't sound. If this story of the place being infested by rats was true, you would smell it the moment you walked in the door. Wouldn't matter what the other smells were, you would smell it.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to, you know, sometimes if a place is really filthy, you can smell it. Like, you know,
Well,
you just... Yeah.
You see, old trailers, they do have a distinct smell, especially if you don't have an air exchanger in there or a dehumidifier. They do get a smell that you
Right.
have to keep them aired out quite frequently. The place did smell stuffy. The stove was on, so it was pretty warm in there.
Okay.
The wood.
There's one big rat in that trailer. 100%. 100%. There was a rat in that trailer. There still is a rat in that trailer. But it wasn't in the walls, for sure. I would presume somewhere like Nova Scotia that you would get that kind of damp smell unless you were able to air it out really well. And I'd imagine, especially coming out of winter, that it probably would have that kind of winter, musty kind of smell about it, maybe.
Stove was going, so it was
Okay.
hot.
Okay. Huh. Well, that's interesting.
The only other thing I noticed is you've seen the video that Wade took of inside the trailer.
You saw what?
I saw a video that Wade took inside the trailer.
Yes.
I
Yep.
was shown that video first by Anita. She sent me that clip first. And she asked me how the place looked compared to that video, and I told her the living room where it shows all the totes and the stuff piled up in the corner on the other side of the stove. None of that was there.
Yep.
None of that was there when I was there Saturday.
That's really interesting. None of that was there. Not even the totes. Mouse is losing the plot at my neighbours right now. Figures. I'm just going to try and ignore him unless you can hear him and he's bothering people. I'm guessing the neighbours are working on... I've got neighbours that are renovating. They stress him out, so when he knows they're there, he loses the plot. Which he's doing at the moment, but I'm pretty certain he will come back in just a minute. He'll just go, yeah, whatever. I'm just going to rewind that just a bit and listen again.
Like ammonia or Javex, and no, there was no smell of animals in there either.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to, sometimes if a place is really filthy, you can smell it. Like,
Well,
yeah.
You see, old trailers, they do have a distinct smell, especially if you don't have an air exchanger in there or a dehumidifier. They do get a smell that you
Right.
have to keep them aired out quite frequently. The place did smell stuffy. The stove was on, so it was pretty warm in there.
Okay.
The wood stove was going, so it was
Okay.
hot.
Okay. Huh. Well, that's interesting.
The only other thing I noticed is you've seen the video that Wade took of inside the trailer.
You saw what?
I saw a video that Wade took inside the trailer.
Yes.
I
Yep.
was shown that video first by Anita. She sent me that clip first. And she asked me how the place looked compared to that video, and I told her the living room where it shows all the totes and the stuff piled up in the corner on the other side of the stove. None of that was there.
Yep.
None of that was there when I was there Saturday. The only thing in that living room was the couch, a table, and the stove. Nothing else was in that living room.
That really is extremely odd. You have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. You can walk into any house that has children that age, and you're going to see signs that there are children in that house, certainly in the living area. And Malaya's saying that she was too tired to unpack their clothes after doing washing at her grandmother's place. So why? Why were there no toys in the living area? Yeah, Malaya said they were playing with their toys Thursday morning. Curious. I would love to see the metadata for that video of Wade's to know when that's from, though. Maybe, you know, if that was taken at a different time, let's say, I think there was a suggestion at one time that it might have been taken at Easter time when the kids were dropped back at the trailer. So is it possible that the particular weekend that Wade made that video, that maybe for starters there wasn't a bunch of wooden stuff there because it wasn't the coldest month? Or maybe, I don't know. Is it also possible that maybe Daniel had his kids at the trailer over Easter, and these are older kids? So at that time, his oldest kid was 8. So is it possible that they had been playing in the living room area, and before they went home, they were expected to pack their toys and things away, and they just cleaned it up? It depends on the metadata. Because, you know, if Daniel's other kids had been there and Lily and Jack hadn't been there, given that they are not raised by Daniel, given they are raised by their mother, we don't know what their upbringing is like. They could be the sort of kids who have been trained at home that when you finish playing, you pack everything away. You've got an 8-year-old boy, 8-year-old girl, and a 6-year-old boy that's a little bit older than Lily and Jack. I would imagine for an 8-year-old girl, you think about 8-year-old girls, they're very much on the ball. If her mother has taught those kids, you pack up, you clean up when you're done playing, then I could imagine, even if the little brother, the 6-year-old, wasn't so good at it, I could imagine an 8-year-old girl being like, we've got to do this, and either her just doing it all herself or her pressuring the 6-year-old to do his bit. I mean, that's a possibility. I'm not saying that's the case, but it's also curious that, yes, and we know they're truthful because they actually spoke out for Lily and Jack. And my heart goes out to those children. I'm so thankful that their names have been really spoken. Because if that wackadoodle Anita learnt their names, then I hate to think the sort of story she'd be coming up with. It is interesting, though, that this video, and I've seen it, there was nothing No toys anywhere.
The kitchen was really piled up with a lot of recyclable bottles, recyclable bags. There was 2 or 3 garbage cans that were loaded full. The counters were covered. I don't know if it was so much as dirty dishes, containers of food. The counters were completely covered, so you couldn't see anything.
Okay.
And what stood out to me was I never seen kids' toys laying around. Now, my sister said she did spot a couple of the babies' toys there, but I just noticed that I never seen any toys around.
Interesting.
On that, it's interesting that she's saying her sister saw some of the babies' toys around, but she didn't see any toys around. We're looking at a relationship here where we have coercive control. We have 2 children who are not the biological children of a partner who it appears was a little bit on the abusive side. We've heard the way Janie talks about Lily and Jack. We've heard the way Daniel talks about Lily and Jack. I can see a few scenarios here. I can see a scenario of a step-parent wanting to enforce their rules and throwing out any toys that have been left out because it's not their kids, they don't care. I can also see a similar situation of a step-parent who has anger issues, maybe having issues over tripping over toys and expecting the toys to be removed from the area. So maybe Lily and Jack weren't allowed to play in that living room. Maybe they were only allowed to play in their bedroom because that way their toys weren't out making someone angry. Just a random thought. Yeah, well, Janie did say that whole thing of lots of people brought food and things. So it is possible that a lot of what Belynda saw in the kitchen could have been from people bringing food and drinks for the searchers and for the people that were there. I think Daniel came up with a story for Charmaine that his work paid money to help feed the searchers or something. Oh, yeah. The video also had the Christmas tree, so the totes could have been Christmas stuff, not toys. That is a really good point. Maybe the totes are what the Christmas stuff was stored in. Maybe that's why there were no toys lying around in that video, because they were setting up the Christmas stuff. And if you've got extra totes and things in the living area for Christmas and stuff, yeah, I would like to hear a direct account from somebody in terms of what's going on with that video. I'd like to know the metadata. I'd like to know when it was made. And I would like some direct information in terms of why there's no toys or anything seen there. If you look at the videos from when Malaya was quite young, like when she was 14 and when she was 16, when she did her YouTube videos, Cindy's house is kept quite clean. Likewise, when you look at photos of the kids at Paddy's place was always kept quite clean as well. You know, what's the best way to motivate someone to do housework? Best way to motivate someone to do housework, do a clean-up, is to ring them and say, "Oh, we're coming over. We'll be there in half an hour." So it is possible, given that we know that Cindy keeps a clean house, Paddy keeps a clean house, is it possible that the reason that that whole area was so empty when Wade took the video is because, you know, she knew Cindy and Wade were coming, so the kids' toys were all put in their bedroom. There were dolls in that video. Dolls were naked. Don't little girls dress their dolls? Good question. That's an interesting question. That is a very interesting question. I guess it depends. You would expect girls to dress their dolls, but I could also imagine Lily being the kind of kid that liked to change her dolls' outfits multiple times as well. Curious. I'm not sure if I kept a copy of that video. I'll have to see if I can find it again and have another look.
Did it look like you probably didn't think about this much at the time, but did it look as though did it look like someone had gotten rid of stuff and cleaned up the place and cleared out the place at all to you?
The living room looked like it was cleared out. For the kitchen to be piled up as much as what it was, I was surprised to see the living room so bare.
That's interesting, though. So I'm sure I've heard Belynda say this before, that the living room was cleaned out and seemed really bare. Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. I had the biggest collection of Matchbox cars on the planet. Because, of course, you know, I had 2 older brothers who had been collecting Matchbox cars, but they're like 8 and 10 years older than me. So they had pretty much lost interest in their Matchbox cars. So I got all their Matchbox cars. And, you know, quite often if we were going shopping and there was a choice between a Golden Book or a Matchbox car, quite often I would prefer to get a Matchbox car. So I had the biggest box full of Matchbox cars, and I wish I still had them because they're probably worth a bit now. I had Barbies. I rarely ever played with them. I can only remember playing with my Barbie by basically putting my Barbie in her Barbie car and driving the Barbie car around. Yes, I think that story about the front door bugs me, and I do think it was damaged and fixed. Just yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Because some people I can remember as a kid playing at friends' places, and they had Barbies that were lying around with no clothes on them because they had this massive wardrobe of clothes for their Barbies, and the first thing they'd do when they started playing with their Barbie was decide what they were going to put on them. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking that way as well.
Well, this is really interesting. This is very interesting.
And that's only an afterthought after I have seen so many pictures of the place on the inside. And it's like, well, the living room was completely bare when we were there, just for the furniture itself.
Yeah. Did you see any clothing at all that would, not baby clothing, but
There
jackets?
was piles. Now, I didn't take notice of it, but my sister and my daughter did. There were piles of dirty clothes in the hallway right as you're going to enter the hall. There was...
Whoa. There were piles of dirty clothes in the hallway. Malaya claimed that she put the kids to bed in their clothes because all their clothes were still in bags from doing laundry. I hope Susan actually asked if they're certain that they were actually dirty clothes. But if they're piles of clothes in the hallway, even that would have been easy enough to pull out clean clothes for Lily and Jack.
This is very interesting.
And that's only an afterthought after I have seen so many pictures of the place on the inside. And it's like, well, the living room was completely bare when we were there, just for the furniture itself.
Yeah. Did you see any clothing at all that would, not baby clothing, but jackets?
There was piles. Now, I didn't take notice of it, but my sister and my daughter did. There were piles of dirty clothes in the hallway right as you're going to enter the hall. There was a pile of dirty clothes that you would have to step over to go down the hall. But I didn't take notice of that. But my sister and my daughter did.
But they had just done laundry on the Wednesday.
Well, that's what I thought of afterwards too, but I mean, I don't know if maybe they were tearing the kids' clothes apart trying to figure out what they were wearing. I don't know.
I'll have to, she said Chelsea saw those clothes as well. So, I don't know if Chelsea gets a chance to listen to this one, but if you listen to this, Chelsea, let me know. But I'll also try and reach out, and I'd be interested to know what makes them believe that they are dirty clothes just because they're on the floor, or did they look worn in? Did they look, rumpled and thrown on the floor? But that's a good point that Belynda makes also in terms of, had they been pulling them out to try and figure out what the children were wearing, which they should have been able to know what they were wearing. And that's the confusion. They're claiming that they went to do laundry. But then Patty's account makes it sound like she hadn't seen them in over a week. So what's the story with this laundry? What's the real story? Something's not adding up here.
I guess my question is, and I don't know whether you can answer this. Why did they say? Did they say they were dirty clothes just because they were on the floor, or were they noticeably dirty clothes?
Going by my sister, they were dirty clothes. And I go by my sister because my sister is a clean freak, that she's really very clean.
Yeah.
So she really notices things like that. I'm organized, but I'm not super clean.
Okay.
I can hear the cogs going in Susan's brain, and I was doing the same thing. That's why it took me so long to pause. Because it definitely sounds like they were dirty clothes. And if you go back and listen to the other things that Belynda has said, her sister is really, really observant. Ah, Charles is here. Thank you. I was hoping. Yeah. Your aunt would definitely consider them dirty just because they were on the floor. Watching others, I know who live this way, laundry piles up. They tend to acquire or buy new before actually cleaning. Yeah. What's your thoughts, Chelsea? Belynda says here that she thinks you saw the clothes as well. Did you think they were dirty clothes? And welcome in, by the way, sorry. Did you think they were dirty clothes, or do you think they were just piled up laundry? Can't say if they were dirty or not, but they were piled on the floor. So you assumed it was dirty laundry. Yeah, I would too. I mean, for me, I my ADHD does not allow me to even dirty clothes, leave them on the floor. And maybe that's, I don't know, maybe something that I was trained with by my parents. You know, even dirty clothes don't go on the floor, they go in the laundry hamper. But that would certainly be what I would be thinking. Yeah, it could have been part because of searching. We did have an account, and I don't want to go too much into talking about the dogs, because I've sent some emails to Michelle at RCMP. Not Michelle, Alison, sorry, at RCMP, asking questions about the dogs, and I'm just kind of thinking there's things that I shouldn't touch on with regards to the dogs. But Wade did mention about there being clothing on one of the vehicles that was apparently pulled out for a scent dog. So it is quite likely that they did want to go through clothing. It's also possible that if the kids' room was a bit of a pigsty and detectives wanted to search the room and just look for anything in the room that might have been out of place, that if there was clothing on the floor, then it's also possible that they may have pulled the clothing out while searching the room. So about half a garbage bag worth of clothes. It's really interesting. Yeah, I would never ever put my clothes on the floor if they were clean. But that said, if anything went on the floor in my house, Mouse would have it in like 2 seconds flat. I use, because I'm lactose intolerant, I use almond milk, and I get the long life stuff. I was making myself a drink yesterday and I dropped the lid, that little teeny lid off the top of the almond milk, on the floor. Before I could even bend down and pick it up, Mouse had it and he was gone. So at the moment, my almond milk has a bit of cling wrap over the hole at the top that's sealed with rubber bands. But certainly most people are not going to put clean clothes on the floor. This is interesting. No, didn't Wade say that he saw a pink shirt on the windscreen of the vehicle? Oh, it was Janie said they were on the hood for a scent dog. Interesting. Very interesting. Oh yeah, Mouse is a devil. He's finally reached the age where he's grown a brain. Mostly. Because up until about 3 months ago, I had to buy cheap doona covers, which doonas are duvets for people not in Australia. I had to buy cheap doona covers and cheap bed sheets from op shops for my bed because Mouse would rip holes in them. So basically, I was throwing out bed sheets and doona covers every time I changed my bed because Mouse was destroying them. I've had to throw out shoes that Mouse has destroyed. And I've never known a dog to be so quick with, if I drop something, it's gone. Your daughter's boyfriend's dog eats everything. Now, here's one for the beagle lovers out there. I've said this before, but it's just a classic story. My friend's had a beagle years back, and she would eat anything. I know she, at one point, ate a block of soap. But one time they went on holiday, and they went interstate. Now, we lived a few blocks from their house, so it was just easier for their dog, more comfortable for her to stay at home. She had a doggy door so she could go in and out of the house. And we were going there a few times a day to feed her and just give her company. While they were off on holiday, because she was just not used to being left at home, she ate half the picnic table. Dogs do bizarre things. I have a friend who is legally blind, and she's had guide dogs pretty much since she was a teenager. She was at a professional development session one time, and all these other people that were at this professional development thing had left their bags just sitting around on the floor. And she had to take her guide dog, to the vet and have his stomach pumped out because he had, while they were all doing their thing, he'd gone and done a tour of people's bags and stolen food out of their bags. And when the vet pumped his stomach, one of the things that came out was an entire cherry ripe bar still in its wrapper. Like, honestly, dogs do dumb things. Beagles are so hyperactive. Beagles are one of the smartest breeds of dog. and they compensate for that with dumb things sometimes. Oh, two, that's a long time. And that was a guide dog. I've known people who've adopted retired guide dogs, and what they learn over time is that you can get away with things if your owner can't see it happening. My singing teacher, when I was in my early 20s, had a retired guide dog, and they had to make sure any food was put well out of reach because their dog was just accustomed to just going and helping himself to biscuits off plates and stuff, because as well trained as he was, he'd learnt that his owner wouldn't see if he went and stole things. Oh, King Charles Cabby, love them. My cousin's aunt had a King Charles, and this is going back years and years, and she would have parties every now and then. She was someone who enjoyed that whole social life thing, and she had to get her guests to make sure they did not put their drinks on the floor, because her dog Reagan would go around and drink out of people's drinks and end up getting drunk. But yeah, Cabbies, just King Charleses, are so beautiful. Anyway, a little bit more of this audio. I'm going to push on a little bit longer and have a slightly later lunch, I think, because I'm really curious about this. I haven't listened to any.
Okay, Macy. Thanks, hon. Thanks for the gifts, and thanks for being here, and thank you for your insight as well.
Good night, Macy.
Have a good sleep, Macy. Well, this is all very interesting. This is new information that I've never heard. And it's not like, breaking news or anything, but it is very interesting.
Well, with me, sometimes it's easy to forget some of the things. And I know with all the different creators and all the things that have been put out, sometimes little stories get lost.
And this is why I'm so grateful for Belynda for still coming out and speaking, because little things like that, especially like, when she first came out and she was speaking with Sunny, then little things like that probably are questions that none of us were thinking to ask. And so coming out and discussing it with Susan, with Sunny, with whoever else, it is bringing out these things that she probably didn't think were important before, and now we're getting that out there. And she's so right about things getting confused and things. Like I said, there's been plenty of times when Belynda or Chelsea have emailed me after I've done a live stream or a video and said that's not quite right, because we do get a little bit confused with our memories, and we hear versions of things. So it's good to have the little things, and the little things do matter so much. Sometimes it might be just a little thing that suddenly allows you to connect all the dots. So when it comes to cases like this, I don't think there is really such a thing as a little thing, because I think every single bit of information is important.
Of course. And would you mind at all if I took parts of this and made a video of it for the channel?
I have no problem with that.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. And well, as
I
I
would
start,
I
go
would
ahead.
also like to clear up something about the dog.
Yes.
Sure.
When I first said to Sonny about the dog being a large dog because it had a very large dog bark, I've had dogs. I've been around many animals. So I know the difference between a small dog, a medium dog, and a large dog. The dog I heard was a large dog. Now,
I've said this before. When you hear about Belynda's world, Belynda's life, she's the Dr. Doolittle of Nova Scotia. So when she says it was a large dog, I heard the bark, it sounded like a large dog. I've got no doubts whatsoever.
Sonny asked me if I seen the dog. I told Sonny no, because the only part of the dog I seen was the dog's mouth.
Was the dog's
I can tell the dog's open mouth.
Okay.
When I walked by Janie's trailer, I was right on the side of where her little step thing is.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog was barking, and it was such a frantic, fearful sound that I just turned my head and my face was level with the dog's mouth.
Okay.
So it had to have been her RV door, because that's the only thing, because she had stuff piled in the window of one place. So I know it couldn't have been that window. It had to have been the door window. But it was level with my head. And I'm 5.
I just want to say, I would love, now I'm so glad Belynda's got her TikTok channel, but I would dearly love to see Belynda start up a YouTube channel where she shares all the animals in her garden. People would watch that. I would watch that. I would be like one of her first subscribers, because her garden is amazing. And she really is. She is Dr. Doolittle. I'm going to run that a little bit back because I do want to take this in a little bit more.
Small dog, a medium dog, and a large dog. The dog I heard was a large dog. Now, Sonny asked me if I seen the dog. I told Sonny no, because the only part of the dog I seen was the dog's mouth.
Was the dog's
I can tell the dog's open mouth.
Okay.
When I walked by Janie's trailer, I was right on the side of where her little step thing is.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog was barking, and it was such a frantic, fearful sound that I just turned my head and my face was level with the dog's mouth.
Okay.
So it had to have been her RV door, because that's the only thing, because she had stuff piled in the window of one place. So I know it couldn't have been that window. It had to have been the door window. But it was level with my head. And I'm 5'2", 5'3".
Okay.
And all I could make out was this mouth that, if I was to put it to perspective, if that window wasn't there, the dog could have tore off half of my face. That's how big that dog's mouth was. Now, can her dog open its mouth that wide? I don't know.
Tucker's mouth doesn't match that description, because it would probably take me forever to find a picture of Tucker. But what she's describing there, again, sounds like a staffy or a pitty with the big mouth. That's not Tucker. There's no way that is Tucker. Not only that, she's describing this dog, a wide mouth. That's your Staffy Pity kind of breeding. I think Tucker is probably part Yorkie. I think she said probably part Corgi. But he hasn't got that type of mouth, has he? He's, I just have to, let me have a quick look, see if I can find. Unfortunately, when I go into trying to search for images when I'm in StreamYard, it doesn't let me go into folders, so I have to just scroll through all the images. But there's no way. That's not Tucker. Not remotely. Not. Yeah, we know it's not you either, Amira. Okay, I'm scrolling through, and I realised that I left the back door open, so they're both outside being crazy now, but hey, whatever. I don't know if I've got Tucker on this MacBook. I would have thought I did, but I'm down into all my images of Jack and Lily, and I'm not seeing him. Nope, I'm not winning here. Okay, well, that's not happening. That's not Tucker. Not Tucker at all. That's the question. Yeah, well, Chelsea, you and your aunt saw the dog. Why are they so sensitive about this dog? Why not just admit? Because this well and truly clears it up, in my opinion. But not only that, the description of the dog, the way the dog was barking. Oh, heck no. You just have to look at the way Tucker went over to investigate the cameraman when he came out of her trailer, her RV. It doesn't matter if he was on medications to make him calm, give him the Zen thing happening. A dog that is that reactive, even if you are giving it medications to help it be calm, it is not going to change its behavior. And if a dog is that reactive that it is doing that panicked bark in a doorway, that means it is reactive to strangers. So regardless of whether or not that dog was on medication to help it calm down, there's no way a dog that is that reactive is going to go over to a cameraman to check them out. Yeah. You can only see it through the front windshield. The glare of the sun blocked your view. Yeah. This is what I think. Malaya told Belynda that Justin was staying there. And yet Janie and Daniel and that swear that he wasn't. I think you are spot on there, Bonza. The reason that they're so defensive about the dog is because it places Justin on the property as well. The paws were on the dash and it's facing the window. Well, can you imagine Tucker doing that? White, brown are the colours I thought I could see. Well, that fits in with Haley's description. I think the description she gave was like she said beige or something like that, but whatever it was, it didn't match Tucker. Now, the other thing that you've got to consider too is, you know, that with Belynda saying about the height thing, Tucker's got a really low center of gravity. He's definitely got some corgi in him because he is a rather low-slung dog. When a dog is like that, solid, low center of gravity, they're not all that, well, they're not made for jumping up. They're not made for being upright. So if he was barking at the doorway at Belynda, I cannot see him actually being up on his back legs, like at the window or whatever it was. Janie tried to say it was Tucker lying there, but it absolutely was not. And then she introduced maybe what people saw was the cat in the window with Tucker. I think most people could tell the difference between a dog and a cat. And size-wise, you certainly would. Yeah, throwing Malaya's family off the property. Yes and no. Like, I mean, it does, to me, it does show that the priority wasn't having people there searching. Because I guess it could be a case of, you guys aren't welcome on the property, please continue searching, but don't search with this as your base. I would really like to know why the determination to lie about the dog. I don't buy into the story of a dog attack. It was something I speculated on probably about 6 months ago. But the more I learn, the more I think that I'm focusing on one person who was probably doing drugs and probably lost their temper. Remember the plywood board on the inside of the RV door to hide scratches from a big dog? Yeah. But the thing is, when you look at the inside of Janie's yard, the top rail, yeah, it was the front windshield you were looking at the dog through. The top rail of Janie's yard. Now, I'm going to bring up that video. I'm going to zoom through to
July.
hang on. Okay, I'm going to run it back to when she's in her yard. Oh, this might not be the full interview. Hang on. Remove that and bring another one up. Okay, try again. Trying to multitask, it's not working well. Okay, now when Janie did this interview with CBC, and there's one point where they're in her yard and facing...
I heard is...
Okay, I probably still haven't. Let me see. Dang it. Okay, this is something I need to come back to, I think. I'll just say it. So, when Janie did her CBC interview, when she's outside in her yard talking to the interviewer, all along the top rail of that yard looks like it's been chewed or scratched at by a dog. There's no way in heck that Tucker could do that. So this goes back to the question, why the need to hide the fact? Okay, Belynda says something interesting in a minute. So as much as I'm desperate for lunch, I'm going to play it on just a little teeny bit more then.
Saw.
Right.
But I could not make out a color. I could not make out a breed other than it had a big, wide mouth.
Okay. Well, the dog that we saw in the CBC interview certainly didn't have that nature.
Right.
I mean, it literally.
And that's right. That's what struck me. Her dog did not bark. And when I went back on Sunday,
yeah,
that dog did not Sunday, sorry. It was Monday when I went back.
Monday, yeah.
When I went back on Monday, there was no dog to be heard. When I went back on the 17th and talked to Daniel, there was no dog to be heard.
Again, Janie was so adamant that Detective Mason was not getting in her trailer. There's a dog in there. And then when Belynda has returned, there's no sound from a dog. Things do not add up here.
Okay.
But the dog Saturday, it barked all day. It barked continuously.
Okay. And that was the day that Janie would not allow the police in the trailer.
Yes. And
right?
It was the day that the police did tell her that they could charge her.
Wasn't it Saturday that she refused them entry into the trailer when they asked?
Yes.
And she's... Right. Right. And then they returned, was it the next day?
Yes, they returned on Sunday.
Or if you're a step grandmother or if you're a next door neighbor, if the police come along and say, hey, you know, could we check out your trailer? Could we check out your shed? Could we take a look in your house? There's 2 children missing. You and let's say you have the most vicious dog in the world. You just say, yeah, you know what? Give me 10 minutes. I'm going to have to deal with the dog. I got to get rid of the dog here so that you guys can come in. But absolutely, yeah, you can go in. Of course you would anybody would give them access.
I would love to keep going, but it's 1 o'clock here and I'm kind of hitting that point where I desperately need to go and make some lunch for myself. And now I've got 2 chihuahuas outside terrorizing my neighbor. Oh, hello. Mouse has now come in to see if Taka wants to join him terrorizing the neighbor, while Taka's just enjoying having them out of her face. I would imagine tomorrow morning I probably will have updates in terms of how Daniel went with his court date. But I definitely will be coming back to this and doing way more of this because this has got me so interested. Again, huge shout out and a huge thank you to Belynda and a thank you to Susan for putting this out. I will try and follow it up tomorrow. Depends on how much discussion there is. How much there is to discuss, because won't Daniel be in court before we get up tomorrow morning? So I will probably talk about that first, but I'd imagine there probably won't be a great deal to talk about, so I will definitely continue with this tomorrow. Because, yeah, I really want to hear more of this, and there's a lot to discuss, a lot here to discuss. So, yeah, I desperately need to go get myself some lunch, and I think 3 hours is just about my maximum. So I will definitely come back to this tomorrow. So thanks for coming in. Please hit the like button on the way out. Very much appreciated, very much needed right now. Also, if you're new, please subscribe, and please, if you're on replay or even if you just want to come back in, leave a comment below. I think when it comes to the update with Javea, I might just do that as a video. Yeah, I think about 11, 12 o'clock tonight is when he's in court for us, Bonza. So, I'll be wide awake when we start getting some info about what happened with him in court. So I'll have some idea then. But I'm definitely coming back to this tomorrow. I think, given that this is going to be a shorter live stream, has gone to 3 hours, I think with the update for Javea, I'll just do that as a video. So Daniel's court tomorrow is 11 Eastern in the morning. So is that Nova Scotia time, or is that, I would have thought he'd be there at 9? I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll definitely be talking about that, and I'll be keeping an eye on it tonight when I go to bed to see if there's any updates. So thanks for coming in, people. Very much enjoyed this one. Keep an eye out for a video later today for updates with Javea, and I will just do it as a video. And I'll catch you all in the next one.